So we all know the most iconic ship in the Imperial Navy. The easily recognizable wedge shape of an Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. But is it a destroyer? I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So, the Imperial-Class Star Destroyer isn't a destroyer. By any sense of ship classifications that we know here on Earth, none of the ship classifications in Star Wars make any sense. So I figured today we'd take a look at some of these wonky ship classifications and maybe figure out where things actually belong. Let's talk about destroyers. Destroyers are generally medium-sized capital ships. Most of their roles involve escorting larger ships. So, what fits this role? Well, one ship comes to mind immediately. The Arquitens-Class light cruiser. While it is a little bit big to be classified as a destroyer here on Earth, in the world of Star Wars it's a relatively small capital ship. Its well-rounded nature means it fits well with an escort role. And we see it filling that escort role a lot in shows like Rebels. They were used, for example, in Rebels to escort the interdictors. So their medium size and mixed role nature make them pretty good destroyers. Now you may notice that I didn't mention the things with destroyer in their names, Star Destroyers. And while Star Destroyer might technically be a classification in Star Wars, we're not going to consider it today. We're going to instead be trying to figure out where those ships fit in our scale. So moving up the line to cruisers, I think most ships that you and I would think of as Star Wars capital ships are probably classifiable as cruisers. Many of the ships in the Navy of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, for example, could be classified as cruisers. In fact, I would say the Munificent-Class Frigate is actually a cruiser. It's a little heavier than what I'd classify as a frigate, and is definitely more geared specifically towards ship-to-ship combat. One thing I'd say that isn't a cruiser, and is sometimes referred to a cruiser, are the Venators. Sometimes in the Clone Wars, they're referred to as Jedi cruisers or Republic cruisers. They just seem a little too big for that. And they have a role that's very specialized that I'll get to in a little bit. I want to throw out a couple things that are actually named right. The first thing that comes to mind is the Acclimator-class assault ship. While it can engage other capital ships, it's definitely designed from the ground up to land troops. Easily more of a transport than a warship, it fits the name that it's given very well. Another one is the Nebulon B Frigate. I think, due to its size, it definitely classifies as a frigate. Its lower tonnage and relatively low number of weaponry also fit well with the role of a frigate. Now let's talk about the real reason why you're here, the big ones, the Star Destroyers. And I will mainly be looking at the three Star Destroyers we see in the movies, the Venator, the Imperial, and the Resurgent class. Let's start with the Venator. The Venator is absolutely a carrier. Its massive fighter complement and relatively light armament means it fits well into the carrier role. In most combat engagements, it would be very reliant on its fighter wings to deliver payload to a target. As far as direct weapons for ship-to-ship engagements, it's not nearly as well armed as the other Star Destroyers. But it does have a larger fighter complement than the other ships classified as a Star Destroyer. Which brings me to the Imperial Class. The Imperial Class significantly cuts back on its fighter complement and trades much of that tonnage for weapons. While the Venator-Class had only a handful of turbo lasers, the Imperial-Class was bristling with them. It even traded things like point defense lasers for more turbo lasers. As a result, I think it's obvious that the Imperial-Class Star Destroyer is properly a battleship. Its heavier armor and armament make it more suited for direct ship-to-ship engagements. And like a lot of battleships, it could outgun basically anything it came up against. Couple that with the fact that its fighter complement was relatively small, and you get something that's very clearly not a carrier, and almost certainly classifiable as a battleship. Now we get to the tough one, the Resurgent class. The Resurgent class in general combines the best aspects of both the Imperial-class Star Destroyer and the Venator. Here you have a ship bristling with turbo lasers with a significant fighter complement. And the only thing I could think of is to compare this to some weird carrier-battleship hybrid. Along with a relatively large fighter complement, it also carries a wide arsenal of turbo lasers and other ship-to-ship weapons. This easily makes it the most well-rounded of the three Star Destroyers I talked about. But all of these have to work together to form a coherent fleet. If you want to learn more about the ships that the Imperial Navy used in their fleets, I'll leave a link up here to my video on that. And I want you to let me know down in the comments what you think of my ranking. Do you disagree with where I put these ships, or is this pretty much where you would put them too? And if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.